Welcome back to that Heartbreak Hogs podcast. Sid, let's react here to what we saw on Saturday, what you witnessed firsthand. You were in that Red Out Stadium outside of the scoreboard, mainly the first half we're talking here. How was the intensity of the crowd like compared to Tennessee? Did it look like that there were more people there at this game?
No, I mean, it looked about the same, honestly. Like it was a packed house. There were more there were more Razorback fans, I would say, like versus visiting fans. Like Tennessee
Mhm.
had a lot more visiting fans. Obviously, as you got closer to the end of the game, you saw a lot more yellow because Razorback fans had left by that time.
Yep.
And really after halftime, it started like dwindling down.
Yeah.
But I stayed till about 5 minutes left in the game, um, and at that point, yeah, it had dwindled down by a lot, and it wasn't close, so,
Yeah.
um, as far as the atmosphere goes, though, at the start of the game, yes, um, it was very hype, and, I mean, just the fans brought it, just as much as they did for the Tennessee game, but it's hard for the fans to bring it when we're just not moving the ball,
Yeah.
and we just don't have just not doing well.
Yeah, it was tough to watch, man. Um, it just feels like every time that we start believing in this team, they get a little bit of momentum going and a little bit of hype. It's like that Dr. Pepper hype train commercial where we're all in and then it just abruptly stops. And this one was a tough one to watch. Eh, I don't know where to start on it, man. Um, we talked about last episode how Pittman had been doing really well in games off of a bye week, and to come out looking flat like that, it was really disappointing. It looked like LSU really wanted it. It looked like they were at home. They came out with so
Yeah.
much energy, so much passion, and they were ready to go. I mean, they went and scored effortlessly on multiple occasions, had plenty of long drives, and we couldn't get to the red zone and just kept shooting ourselves in the foot. It looked like that we would get momentum, we would turn it over some way, fumbling it, interceptions. Um, it just it was tough to watch. What uh what were some
Yeah,
of the
I think
things that you saw?
I think a few things come to mind for this game for me. It's um lack of preparation, as you said. Even though we had the bye week, we had more time to prepare than them.
Yeah.
It still like showed me that we were ill prepared for this team and this quarterback, who's we talked about in our podcast. We've
Yep.
got to stop him from throwing the ball and getting in a rhythm, and that's exactly what happened. Like he had all the time in the pocket to kind of make decisions, and I mean everything was going right for them
Yep.
because they had so much time that he was never flustered, he was never caught off.
No.
Um, and so on top of that, I think I talked about the hot streak, right? Like they were coming off, they were just feeling it after beating Ole Miss, and it was even though they might be hurt, it's more of like that we have it right now. We need to
Yep.
win because we are rolling. We got to keep the train rolling. So it was coming off of that. And then they had a little more passion as well because we had scheduled our homecoming game against LSU. And usually homecoming games are not towards against SEC ranked teams and good ranked teams at that. So it kind of maybe it was a little bit of disrespect on their end as well.
Mhm.
And um, and maybe that gave him a little bit more fire. So I don't know. It was all of the above, and it just we were not ready for this game, and they clearly wanted it more, and um, they just ran away with it. Mistake after mistake, we couldn't fix.
Yep.
This isn't just on Pittman. This is our whole like coaching staff, our whole team. Is
Mhm.
everyone? I mean, defensively, offensively, like it's just as a whole can't just put up 10 points, and then again on defense, we can't just let them dictate the whole game.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to get into that because there are some coaching staff members that people refuse to give blame to. And this isn't about just running trying to run everybody out of town or anything or be super negative. We're just calling it how we see it. And as fans, that's what we do. And T Will, man, this guy gets so much love and never gets. I've brought this up multiple times that I've given T Will his flowers whenever he deserved it, but I've also said that he's had inconsistencies and that I've felt at times that our defense was overrated. That there were times that our defense looks really good, and then there are times that they look average. This was one of those games that they look average, and we have fans that want him as our head coach. And to me, I'm just like, why do we want these average coaches as our head coaches? Like, why do we want that? Um, it just, I maybe I'm being a little harsh. I love T. Will. I think he's awesome. I'm talking about for the head coaching specifically, and I'm calling out to that the defense looked average. They didn't have a bad game. It just wasn't good. It was because the offense put them in bad situations, but they also allowed full drives and just didn't do anything to stop that LSU offense. And let me get on Petrino here too. Where has he been? Like where's this offense? As soon as we hit conference play, it is just sputtered to a stop. And that's on him on getting the right quarterback. Why did we go and get Taylon Green if he can't run your system? Um, and I'm not trying to sit here and hate on Taylon Green either. Like, I'm just wondering. Like, these are questions that I have from watching the performances. And why do we have an offensive line that is below average? They're not horrendous, but they're not that great. When our head coach is an offensive line guru, we've never had an elite offensive line since he's been here. So I just don't know why some of these things are not getting called out, because watching this game, I'm wondering why isn't our offense doing anything when we have this great coordinator who went out and went and got his guy at quarterback. Why is our defense so inconsistent where one week they can make a highly touted quarterback, bring him back to reality and look like a high school quarterback in Nico, and then the next week you let LSU come in here and just rough you around outside of the kneel downs? All of their drives except for one resulted in a score. Except for that kneel down drive at the end of the game, which they probably would have scored if they hadn't been kneeling it down. Um, that's the end of my rant for right now. But did you want to
Yeah.
add anything? Did you have kind of different takes on some of that?
No, I mean I agree, but also you've talked about this in the past. Razorback fans have short-term memories.
Yep.
When we win, it's all the praise, and it's like the so and so should be the head coach. So because our everything's clicking, we are the best or whatever.
Yep.
Um, but when it doesn't happen, it's pitchforks out like no other. I think fan base as well. Um, and I mean, this game proves that a little
Yep.
bit. LSU came in and clearly they showed that they were the better team in terms of preparation, in terms of outthinking, in terms of just SEC play. They showed us that they honestly are played much better. are capable of than Razorback fans, or not Razorback fans, than Razorback players. But like,
Yeah.
I do think Razorback as these players have more in them than what they've showed in that game. And as far
Yes.
as defenses go, you talked about they scored, they were able to move down the field. They had also we did stop them in um, having a lot more touchdowns. I mean, they kicked a lot as well.
Yeah.
So in the red zone, at least the positive sides they to come out of that, we were able to get them from scoring touchdowns for a lot of these points. Now,
Right.
offensively, just mistakes after mistakes where we just could not move the ball. I mean, you'll talk about it here in a second, but the time of possession tells you the full story. Um, the turnovers tell you the story. Like these are mistakes that our players made that cost us the game, and we were not confident once once they started rolling from the first touchdown. I think it was just like the confidence was slowly lost, and then the turnovers happened, and then the missed field goal by us happened initially, and I think that's when like the game really just got started getting away from us. Even though the score didn't show it at that time, it was
Mhm.
10-0. But I think after that 10-0, that first quarter, it really felt like the atmosphere around the stadium, it just kind of like starting to lose hope
Yep.
immediately, and because we could tell the players were starting to lose hope, and it was only 10-0 first quarter, and so did we get that after our touchdown in the second quarter? Yes, but like I think it was just I think it was just it comes down to lack of preparation and us just getting beaten like over the like them like over outsmarting us. That's the word I'm thinking of. Like
Mhm.
in every single aspect of the game, whether it's defensively, offensively, they just and then yeah, I don't want to talk about special teams with that missed kick, but it is what it is, and I think it's gonna matter in how we turn it around and are able to move forward, which we'll talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, we'll summarize some of these stats too. LSU had 25 first downs to Arkansas's 15. They were 8 of 15 on third down. We were 4 of 9. Total yards, LSU 393 to Arkansas's 278. Passing, Arkansas had 240, LSU 235. So Taylon Green had more passing yards than Musmeyer. Taylon Green was 21 of 31. Musmeyer was 24 of 35. So very similar there. Yards per pass, Taylon Green was 7.7, Musmeyer 6.7. Rushing, this was the big difference, and this is what changed the pace of the game for LSU's offense versus Arkansas. LSU rushed for 158 yards, Arkansas 38. And LSU had 37 rush attempts, we had 19. Rushing per yard, or the yardage per rush for LSU was 4.3 yards to our 2 yards a carry. Penalties, we were LSU had actually a few more penalties. They had 11 penalties for 80 yards. We had 7 for 78. Um, and then turnovers. LSU 0. LSU wins by 24 points with no turnovers against a team that had 3 turnovers, a pick and 2 fumbles. It's just like, can we not shoot ourselves in the foot? What would have been different? How different would this game have been if Taylon Green wasn't running for his life, throws the ball up, and it gets picked at the 2 yard line or wherever it was, like inside the 10, inside the 5? Um, if Debinion didn't fumble the ball, I don't remember who was the other one that fumbled it. Was it Jackson?
I believe
I
yes,
don't.
I believe no, it was yeah, I think it was Jackson, I know. I remember seeing. Um, yeah, I don't remember exactly. I think it was him though.
Oh, it was Centinnia. Cent- yeah, Isaiah Centinnia fumbled it. Okay. That's right. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. I remember that now. I was thinking they were both running backs. No, but I remember that now. Um, yeah. I mean, really, it's turnovers. I don't know if we would have won this game with no turnovers. Here's another thing: our defense doesn't force enough turnovers. And I kind of brought that up with the UAPB game. Was I thought it was really odd that I was like, yeah, it's great we won 70-0. That's great to see, but it's odd that we didn't force any turnovers against the team that we beat 70-0. It was all offense that scored the points. Like, that's cool. That's great. Your offense scored 70 points. That's awesome. But it was weird. Like, usually in those games, the defense also has like a pick six or a big time fumble or something like that. It's really weird that our defense is not causing turnovers. Um, there's just little things about each side of the ball that is like, was it a recruiting thing? What is going on that this team is not balanced? And I think that that's the biggest reason for turnovers is imbalances on the different sides of the ball. Um, it's just it's tough. There's just a lot of things going on. This team, like you were saying, it's just like how will they respond? They're capable of beating good teams. They're just not capable of being consistent. I don't know if it's a depth thing. I don't know if it's a coaching thing. But it just looked like that from Tennessee, they look like that they could beat anybody in the country too. After this game, I'm concerned about Mississippi State. Like
Yeah.
that's no longer a I'm pretty confident about that. That's me being like, oh, I'm concerned that Mississippi State's going to get their first SEC win. That's what that one has turned into. But we'll get into that later. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm picking Mississippi State by any means. It's just like it is a little bit of concerning of the inconsistencies can come back to bite you. And I just don't know if you lose a game you're not supposed to. I don't know if this Tennessee victory is going to make the season look that much better if you have just an embarrassing loss up later down the road, like to Mississippi State, like to Louisiana Tech, God forbid, or Texas comes in here and beats you 52-3, something like that. And it's just like, well, we beat Tennessee 6 weeks ago, or whatever. But that's just some stuffs that are going through my mind. The short memory. If we go in and beat Mississippi State, I might feel a lot better about things and probably start drinking the Kool-Aid again. but but anyway, we'll stick to
If there's one
this.
thing you're good at is drinking the Kool-Aid, and yes, and when things go bad, it's a true Razorback fashion where who am I throwing the pitchfork at? Um,
Yeah. It's just really frustrating because I did really think that they had a shot. I had interacted with a lot of LSU fans that thought that Arkansas had a shot. They were concerned about this game. They had a lot of respect for Arkansas, said a lot of great things about the Razorbacks. And it just seems like we're back to that point where the national media just kind of looks at it as, oh, uh, Arkansas, that'll be an interesting game. That might be kind of difficult, that place over there. They'll get you every now and then. Just come prepared, or they'll get you. From this team is legit. They're a contender. They're a sleeper for the possible playoff bid. Even nobody was predicting us to go to the playoff. I'm just saying, like, like those teams that it would be fun to kind of see do some damage, and all of that popped over the weekend like a balloon. It just popped, and we no longer have that respect, I feel, because I live in Austin. Now, Texas got a lot of that too around here, which was great. But it just feels like that it's like, man, I'm not getting the same interactions and discussions as I was getting after that Tennessee game. People would come up to me with my Razorback gear and be like, "Yeah, man, I want to watch more Arkansas games. They were doing really well. That was just a great game to watch." To now, I haven't heard anything from anybody just like, "Oh, that was a tough game." But did you watch the Texas game? That's what everybody wants to talk about because that's what they were watching,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I mean that LSU Arkansas game wasn't fun to watch. I hope the Texas Georgia one was, because
It was if you were rooting against Texas.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Um, I yeah, I mean that's a tough one, which makes me stay away from going to more Razorback games the rest of the season. We'll see how the season goes. I mean,
Mhm.
I had us losing this game, and I don't know if a lot of Razorback fans like had the same thing. It was just like the momentum,
Right.
as you had said after the
But
Tennessee game.
you thought that there was a chance. It wasn't an
Yeah,
absolute loss. It was like, "Hey, we'll probably lose, but I want to be there if we don't." You know?
I wanted a good game.
Yeah.
Just wanted a competitive game. A competitive game is not what I got.
Mm-mm.
Um, and it's tough when, yeah, I mean, there's no like smack talking, like you just have to take it against like when you're even sitting in like in the away area, like when there's a bunch some LSU fans, there's the LSU cheerleaders and whatnot in front of you. A couple of the cheerleaders were acting like they were on the team, and that kind of noticed a little bit, but like there's nothing that you can do besides taking on the chin when they are beating
Yeah.
the crap out of you, and you just have to kind of own up to it, if yard after yard, and like yeah, just minute by minute, it's like it's just like a slow death almost.
Mhm.
Where there was no point in time I was like, oh well, maybe, well, that's a lie. Before half, I was like, okay, we had
Yeah,
talked about this.
because of
We
the
can
field
still make,
goals. The
yeah,
field goals made it where us stopping them from
exactly.
getting touchdowns, like you had said earlier, uh,
Hmm.
forcing a field goal versus a touchdown made it a little bit more manageable. 13-16 to 7, whatever it was, 13 to
Yeah.
7, stuff like that. That was a lot more comfortable than 21 to 7 or, 28.
Yeah, plus the touchdown that by Armstrong,
Mhm.
in that second
Hey, he got
quarter
his
gave us
first
some life.
touchdown. He got his
Yeah,
first touchdown.
just gave us some life. Well, that play I saw the replay of, but like, yeah, it was at LSU. That was one of their only misses, but we took
Yeah.
advantage of it. And outside of that, I mean, I don't see a lot of positives. We hit a 51 yarder.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
cool. But
Well, and that's the inconsistency I'm talking about too, is how can you go in there? It seems like we always go 1 for 2 in these or in these field goal attempts. It's always 1 for 2 or 1 for 3 or maybe even 2 for 3, but it's like it's never 2 out of 2 or 3 out of 3 or 1 out of 1. It's always, he always misses one, and they got to figure out what they want to do at certain spots on the field, because I don't think he should be kicking 40-yard range field goals. I just don't. That seems to be his miss range. If you're in the 40-yard area, if you're a field goal attempt of 40 yards, you're in no man's land. Don't punt it. Just if it's short yardage, go for it. If it's like 4th and 8, screw it, kick it. Whatever. But if it's 4th and 1, fourth and
yeah, I think that
two,
was 4th and 4 that we went for and missed the kick. Um,
okay. I still think that that's possibly
Manageable. It's
doable.
doable.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we're not confident, if it was like a a kicker that we were super confident in that range, I mean,
Yeah.
yes, every time I would have him even
Mhm.
4th and 2, 4th and 1, get the points, right? Because it's
Yeah.
still early. It's very early in the game. You want to just get the points. But if you're not confident in your kicker and you lose confidence,
Yeah. they just got to figure out where are his sweet spots and where are his no-go spots. Because in just don't try to fake a field goal. Don't do that crap. Just either straight up go for it or straight up kick it. But there are some spots that I don't want him kicking from. Like he
That's
just
tough
doesn't.
to, like, say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for a kicker, right? Like, because then if we go for it, we don't get it, fans are gonna be one way where they're like,
Well, it depends how you don't get it. Like if it's a don't get it as in we do some stupid play, then we'll get mad. But if you're going for it
right,
and like, it's a good pass and it's either a drop or it's just, a well defended play where it's like, oh, that was a well thought out of play. That was good. It was just short. I feel like that's more able to deal
so
with than a field goal that doesn't even get close. I don't know what that thing looked like live, but on TV, on TV, man, that was one of the ugliest kicks I think I've ever seen in my life.
I couldn't tell, I
I
have the side
called
point of
my
view, and I
dad,
was just like,
and he's
yeah.
just like, "Where was he kicking that thing?"
Yeah, I think the
Oh
consistency, though, I
man,
mean, it's as from Arkansas fans where if they don't get it, we can't be like, "Oh, why didn't, like, you go for it?" If they do go for it and don't get
yeah,
it, why did you go for it?
yeah.
Um, it's that inconsistency where I kinda struggle with. I mean, as a fan, you every fan will does that.
See, I'm always stoked when they go for it. It just even if they don't get it, I still every time that it
Yeah.
comes up again, I'm like, go for it, go for it, go for it. Like if it's 4th and 2 and you're on the 30 or something like that, go for it, man. Like if you made it that far and you have to kick a long field goal that your guy is 50% on making,
Yeah.
go for it. You have
Well,
just as much
so
of a likelihood of making it on 4th and 2 as you have of kicking it. So
it's
actually, I think
4th
you
and
have a
4,
better.
and,
I
it's the
think it was
first
fourth and
quarter.
two, but
It's first quarter, and, um,
I was
well,
saying
I
go for it just
on
so everybody
let's say
knows.
if it
Full
was
transparency.
on 4th and 4, if it was, you'd still on first quarter, you would not get the points. Um, like, that's where the debate between fans will always be,
I feel
I
like if
think.
you're that far on the other team's side of the field, going for it, if you have a good defense, as good of a defense as we say Travis Williams is or commands that good defense,
Right.
I feel like that you can risk going for it on 4th down on the other team's 30 and 20-ish yard line if you need to. The problem is I'm not convinced that our defense is that good. I
Mhm.
think that they're probably just an average SEC team's defense, and that itself is saying a lot. But from here on out, we're playing conference games, so having an average SEC team defense means that you're going to stop them like 60% of the time. A little, I don't know, throw out the numbers, but what I'm
Mhm.
saying is like you should be good. You're not going to be like, if you're expecting your defense to stop them every time, you're probably going to be disappointed. But for the most part, you're going to be good if you're doing that. If you're doing that on that side of the field, if you're going for it on the other team's side of the field, I think you're good. I know I just hammered that like 20 times, but that that's my short answer is I think you'd be fine going for it.
Yeah. So this again, this is always will be like that debate, go for it, don't go for it. Um, and between fans, and just don't fake field goal kick
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And
that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, yeah,
do a
yeah.
real play. Like, either try to
Um,
run it up the gut and it gets
exactly.
stuffed, whatever. It happens. It happens to Alabama's. It happens to Georgia's. It happens to everybody that does it. But don't do the stupid stuff like you just said on doing a fake field goal or something like that, that the ball gets thrown backwards and then it's just embarrassing. Like,
Yeah.
at least do something that could
At
actually
least you're
work.
known as
Right.
someone that will like be one way or another.
Right.
And yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
put
That's
Braylon
fair to say.
Russell behind you, or Have Taylon Green do a designed QB draw, something like that, where it's like, okay, that was a good play call for that specific situation. No trickery BS where it could just look stupid if it doesn't work. I just feel
Yeah.
like that's more acceptable because the field goal misses can also be embarrassing. Like I feel like a missed field goal is more embarrassing than going for it and not getting it. To me at least, like when you're missing a field goal, it's just like, man, why did we even do that? Like we should have just gone for it.
Well, everyone misses a field goal, but to your point, not that bad. Missing it bad is the bad thing. If you miss a
Looked really
close field
bad.
goal, it happens to every team, even
Yeah.
in the pros. But let's move on from the kicking because we can dwell on the kicking. And I want to ask about Taylon Green and Nussmeier, that comparison that you mentioned earlier
Yeah.
about the passing yards. Taylon passing for a little bit more
Mhm.
than Nussmeier.
Mhm.
Do you think that this game is on Taylon Green, even though his, like, as you said, the passing yards for him are more than Nussmeier's? Do you think Taylon Green could have done better?
So here's the issue with the Taylon Green stuff. Taylon Green right now is not getting us in scoring position. And whenever he does, he didn't in this game at least. He has before this game, and then he can't get us to the score. He can't get us to the end zone. Our red zone offense is terrible. It's not very good, and um, I don't know if it's terrible. It's just it's not as good as the rest of the offense. So if you look at the numbers with the total offense and everything, our red zone offense is not close to those numbers. So we're rated really good, you know, and that may have been on the decline week by week as of late, but towards the middle of the season, like at week 7, right around there, our total offense was ranked pretty high, but our red zone offense was not ranked very high. If you did a comparison between the two, that's the difference between a Musmeyer and a Taylon Green. It appears is that LSU scores. LSU scores when they need to score, and LSU gets themselves in scoring positions. Taylon Green and this offense have a hard time getting in scoring positions, and then when they get into a scoring position, they don't capitalize. Um, and Taylon didn't really have a bad game. Really, what hurt him was just that pick. But yes, he shouldn't have thrown it. But also, man, that offensive line is not doing him any favors. They didn't have their worst game this game, but they didn't have a good one. And it's just the same thing over and over again of Taylon Green and the offensive line don't seem to be on the same page. And I I think that from what we've seen, he appears to be the best option at quarterback. But man, it may be time to just see with Singleton. Just check
Well,
it
so
out because I don't know how Taylon Green's floor is really low and his ceiling's really high, and then game by game it's very volatile.
I think the talent is there. We know the talent is there. It's just inconsistency with him on my end,
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm saying. Like when he's confident, you can tell he's confident and he's making things happen.
Yep.
When he's not, he is kind of using his legs to kind of try to make the best of the situation, but like you can
And
tell that
sometimes he doesn't
confidence
even have
lacks.
to. He doesn't
Yeah,
even
you can
have to
tell
sometimes because he's got guys open. But he
exactly.
goes to his legs first sometimes.
But you can tell that confidence lacks in his throwing and in
Mm-hmm.
those situations where
Exactly.
he really just kind of overthinks it too much and he's afraid to make the mistake where the mistake in itself is not throwing the ball
Yeah.
initially. And I think that's his like mistake. But when I saw that Tennessee game and I was amazed. That's what I wanted to see from him in that from that Tennessee game was that confidence, and it, you could see that he was making plays in the pocket. He was kind
Mm-hmm.
of looking at options and kind of comfortable because it was working. I
Yeah.
think as soon as it stops working for him, he panics and kind of thinks about using his legs immediately,
Yeah.
which he has. And he's some of those plays, it could have been 10-yard loss, 10-yard sack, 15-yard sack, but he's able to get out of those situations from his legs to give him credit.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't give us confidence in like in the receivers, it doesn't give confidence and just like himself, he's not giving confidence to. And then the person that it does give confidence to and the people that it does give confidence to is the defense and is the defensive coordinator against that's going against him that hey, this guy's kind of rattled and we can kind of use that to our advantage because we know now he's not going to throw as much and he's going to use his legs. So and if he's going to run, it's going to be if they are going to run, it's going to be through just like Jaquin and Jackson or whatever, trying to which we can expect. And it's that expectancy that makes it so easy for I think defensive coordinators to predict. Um, hey, we know exactly what you're going to do because we've got you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell from that Tennessee game, he has that in him where when he is confident, it's hard on a
Yeah.
the defensive coordinator to predict what he's going to do because he can do both.
Yeah. I think he is kind of showing that he can pass a little bit better than people have been giving him credit for. Um, but we've got to
But I
get
think it's just rolling out, using his legs, and when he doesn't need to, and I think that comes in from him being rattled,
yeah.
and him not having confidence in that ability.
They just seem
Um,
to be slowing down when they get to the other team's side of the field. That just
yeah,
seems to be the issue, having to kick in no man's land. You know, um,
right.
just getting over there, they get a couple first downs, two or three, and then they just slow down after that. And they've got to be able to finish these drives, and that's what is going to make him, stand out as a more as a quarterback that's a threat to the defense. But I don't know if that's a Bobby Petrino thing. I don't know his history with, you know, points in the red zone, but that does seem to be an issue here is our overall offense has vastly improved, but our red zone offense it hasn't really improved that
Yeah,
much.
I mean, this the only play we had that we scored a touchdown in the red zone was because of a blown missed coverage by the defense, and it was
Hmm.
a throw you could have made.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so for sure, we need to improve on red zone for sure. And
Hmm.
um,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
rushing
well,
wise, defensively, we've talked
yeah.
about it.
Well, and offensively, we need to be able to rush the ball better than 38 yards.
Yeah,
Jaquindon Jackson, he's just injury prone, unfortunately, and it's sad. It sucks. Like, and it's not a knock against him. It's a reality. Unfortunately, he's just one of those that's injury prone, and you don't really have a guy behind him that's dynamic like him. Dominion is
just sucks.
somewhat,
Yeah,
but he's not the guy. He'll fumble. He's got other things. I don't think he could run block very well.
this was just our worst rushing performance this season, and we expect a lot more from these guys
Mm-hmm.
because they've shown us that they are beasts when
Right.
they want to be,
Yep.
and they can create gaps and kind of find
Yeah.
gaps and have that vision. Um, even Braylon Russell, I mean, we talked about it against that Tennessee game where
Mm-hmm.
it just a true freshman. He just showed us like, hey, he's got that potential.
Yeah.
This
And he
game
was
didn't see him much,
he was
but
talking about agents and NIL before this game too.
yeah,
I
but I
think he had
also
3 yards,
three
or is it,
carries on 3 yards. So the carries also hurt. I mean, Taylor Green,
and
I
that was
saw
one
hit
of
the
them. The
most.
other two were 0. So he had
Yeah.
2 carries for 0 yards and 1 for 3.
Right.
And
So
it's just like, mm. And
I
I
mean,
don't know the reason he did that. I don't know what it was, but yeah, he was posting on X about looking for NIL agents and wanting
mm,
more money and this and that. And it's like, bro, you guys got to stay focused, man. Like, I get it. Get your money and all that, but get your money and perform. Don't just get your money and then lay an egg like that. Like, a
yeah.
lot of fans went to this game. They traveled from out of town. Speaking of you being, a little cautious about possibly going to other games, I really was looking forward to going up there for the Texas game, dragging my brother up with me, who's a Longhorn fan, graduated Texas last year, and taking him up there. I don't know if we want to make the trip from Austin because it's just
Mhm.
like I don't want to see Arkansas get slaughtered and not show up in that game. Like, it's just, and I'm not trying to hate on him and saying I'm not a fan anymore. I am. It's just I don't want to travel now and buy those tickets and give the university more revenue to put towards the sports program because I'm afraid that I'll witness something that, you just witnessed there
Yeah.
in person and then have to drive 12 hours back,
Right.
you know, but 12 hours
Yeah.
back the next day. And it's just like, and listen to my brother talk about how great Texas is. I don't wa- I don't want to do that now.
I think we're also possibly it's just like starting this
Uh,
whole um like we talked about the halfway point before the LSU game, right?
yeah.
And I consider like I'm not talking about like UAB
Hmm.
or I mean UAPB, but like I would consider Oklahoma State like that first game we had talked about them losing that game
Yeah.
and talking about the rest of the season not expecting much after all that we saw.
Hmm.
Then we beat Auburn
Hmm.
and it was
Then
like okay,
Tennessee. And Tennessee
we
too.
yeah, and Tennessee too. And um looking at the rest of the schedule, I mean, it's pretty evenly matched
Hmm.
to that first half of the season, and not comparing LSU to Oklahoma State by any means, but we're a different
I
team.
would say LSU is kind of similar to Texas, probably.
Yeah, and
The
it's a
outcomes
different
could
team in
possibly
the
be
midseason,
similar. The strength of the opponent could be similar.
right? But Ole Miss, I mean,
Hmm.
not going to be
We've
an
we've had
easy
their number
game.
at home, but Pittman had the bye week number, and then
Hmm.
that got broken. So records are meant to be broken, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I mean, like
yeah,
it's not
but
an easy schedule, but
let's not get too caught up on what's next because let's go on to the next video. Unless if there was anything else that you wanted to add about the LSU, because just because of time,
yeah,
because
no, I mean,
we're at
it's a
about
tough game.
43 minutes.
Yeah, it's a tough game to be at. The halftime show was cool with the drones, but
Hmm.
I would
Coach
say
Cal
that's
was there too, right?
Coach Cal was there. I didn't look very happy from, um, but
He didn't, dude. I said the same thing when I saw him. I was like, man, he does not look
yeah.
happy. Oh
Outside
man.
of that, yeah, we'll talk about the future games in the next video because I'm yeah. Let's
Yeah.
move on
Yep.
and
Yep.
hope for a better rest of the season.
Sounds good. Razorback fans, Heartbreak Hog podcast fans, and subscribers. If you've gotten this far, please throw a like on the or a like on the button. Please throw a like on this video. Comment down below what you think. What were your overall thoughts, emotions, and everything that went down during the LSU game? What were your thoughts afterwards, moving forward? Um, just let us know down below. We are Razorback fans. We love our Hogs. We're not trying to be negative. It's frustrating to see them not live up to their potential. And we're here to talk about them, give them their flowers when they do good, and, call out things whenever things don't always go so good. But anyway, we're Razorback fans through and through. We're going to keep talking about the Hogs. We're going to keep rooting for them. And With that being said, we'll see you next video.
See y'all.